right, good evening, y'all. It is always great to see each and every one of you guys here on a Wednesday night. It's our vision night where we get to get our new plan for the new season moving forward. So quick reminder, there's cheerful giving that is open. You can give your cheerful giving in three ways. You can either give your cheerful giving on site at the green box in the back, or you can go to www.churchonpurpose.org, or you can text, let's see if I remember. Nope, I don't. 84321. So the numbers are 84321. Simple. Text your gift of giving, your cheerful gift of giving, and you're done. I know this is going to be in the slide, but we like to talk during slides. So I'm going to put a shameless plug real quick. The Winning Women's Conference is going on for women and teen girls, and the registration is open, so we want to make sure that you know about it, because it's going to be an awesome event that we'll be doing some networking. We'll be learning and growing together on November the 1st and November the 2nd. So go check it out. Go to winningwomenomaha.com to register and get your tickets. If you don't do the full conference, you can't do a single day. And we got some awesome dynamite guest speakers. We got our very own Gladys Harris. Harrison. And then we got Miss Sonia Hawkins will be our keynote speaker for Friday night. Miss Earlene Charles is one of our guest speakers. Ashe Connor. Courtney Vaughn, our very own. All the way from Virginia, we have our poet, Miss Trinity Allen. We have Ashley Kunn and Gail Ross. And, sorry. And Monique Guns Cannon, who will be presenting at the end of our conference. I want to make sure that you guys know about this. Spread the word, because it's not going to be your traditional conference. It's going to be live, y'all, and you don't want to miss it. It's our very first one, so spread the word. Let's make it an experience to remember. All right, let's jump right on into praise and worship. Because when I think about this song, I get excited. It simply says, I'm expecting great things. We started singing this song for anniversary, and we're going to continue to sing this song because it helps us to remind ourselves through all crazy stuff, through the day-to-day hustle and bustle, that you should be expecting great things. Why? Because we are kingdom citizens. All right? Here we go. In my life, you do great things.
You do great things.
In my home, oh, you do great things.
You do great things.
All around, you do great things. I hear you, Gerald. Oh, eyes haven't seen, I choose to believe in. Eyes haven't seen, I choose to believe. Eyes haven't seen, I choose to believe in great things. That's all we're saying. I'm expecting great things. I'm expecting great things. I'm expecting great things. I'm expecting great things. Great things. Can you sing that with us? Come on, sing it. I'm expecting great things. I'm expecting great things. I'm expecting expecting great things, great things in my life, in my life,
in my life.
oh, you do great things,
You do great things
in my home,
in my home.
oh, you do great things,
You do great things
all around,
all around.
oh, you do great things,
You do great things.
oh, eyes haven't seen, I choose to believe. Eyes haven't seen, I choose to believe. Eyes haven't seen, I choose to believe. Eyes haven't seen, I choose to believe in great things. I want you to stand up, because this song is supposed to be a song of affirmation. And so we're going to declare that our church is going to do great things, not only in our church, but outside of our church, in the community, inside of our own selves. We're going to be working on ourselves this year. Hallelujah. Come on, girls. You ready? All right, here we go. Oh, I'm expecting great things. Say, I'm expecting
Great things.
I'm expecting great things. Great things, great things. Come on, one more time. I'm expecting great things. I'm expecting great things. Speak it to yourself. I'm expecting great things.
Great things.
In my life, come on, declare it. In my life, you're gonna do what? You do great things.
You do great things.
In my home, speak over it.
My home.
God, you do great things.
You do great things.
All around.
All around.
Oh, you do great things.
You do great
Here we go.
things.
Say, eyes haven't seen, I choose to believe. Eyes haven't seen, I choose to believe in. Eyes haven't seen, I choose to believe in. Eyes haven't seen, I choose to believe in great things. Amen. Amen. That's the declaration that we can sing each and every day, that we're going to choose, because we do have a choice. God gave us free will. We choose to do great things. Let's go to God in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this wonderful day, oh God. We thank you for allowing us to come together as a church, oh God, to learn and grow, oh God. We thank you for providing a space, an opportunity to be able to ask the questions about you, oh God, to be able to fulfill our purpose, oh God. We thank you for this space, oh Lord. We thank you for the declaration today and the confirmation of we are expecting great things to happen, not only in this church, but in our community, and for us to go out to our community and share the love of Jesus Christ with someone that we may know or someone that we may come in contact with, oh God. God, we thank you for this opportunity again. We ask that you touch those individuals that are streaming online, oh God, for those that are sick and can't get here, oh God, for those that just need prayer because they need you in their lives, oh God. We're seeking prayer for them right now. We're interceding right now on their behalf, God. We thank you for the souls that are here tonight, oh God, joined together collectively, singing your praises. We thank you, Jesus. We thank you for Coach Jay, oh God, and the vision that you gave him a long time ago about Church on Purpose. We thank you for this church, oh God. We thank you for the leaders of this church. We thank you for the members and the friends of this church. We bless your name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Please pay attention to the screens.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Gerald. That was the most enthusiastic good evening I've heard in a long time. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. It's great to see you guys in study tonight. It feels like forever since since I stood up here in front of you guys, seeing as how 2 weeks ago we were here for Kingdom Commonwealth Prep Night as we got ready for our the celebration of our third anniversary, and then of course last week we had the evening off in preparation for recovery from a very, very busy weekend there on our church anniversary. And so it's it's been a while, but it feels good to be back, and I am looking forward to our study tonight, and believe that it is going to be a blessing to you as well as a blessing to our church as we prepare for what the Lord is getting ready to do through us next. Did everybody get their note sheet tonight? Of course you didn't, because there isn't one. So each year after anniversary, we take an opportunity, having celebrated what the Lord has already done and kind of what He's doing in the moment. We take an anniversary. We take an opportunity after anniversary to pause for Vision Night and Vision Sunday. This coming Sunday is going to be Vision Sunday, and we do that because it is always important that as a church we continue moving which direction? Forward. Forward always. And sometimes, if we're not careful, we can get stuck in celebrating the things that the Lord has already done and get comfortable, but there's a lot more that the Lord still desires to do through us. And so this is an important opportunity, having celebrated what has already taken place. This is an important opportunity for us to be able to look forward into what the Lord is still going to do. And so tonight's lesson is not going to come from a book that we have regularly studied, but it is one that we visit annually on Vision Night, and it is entitled The Principles and Power of Vision by Dr. Miles Monroe. And yep, I haven't got there to that slide yet. Thank you. But it is entitled "The Principles and Power of Vision" by Dr. Miles Monroe, and this is a book that is an annual visit for me. It's an annual retreat for me because the content that is in this book is one that each of us really needs to be able to focus on our vision long term. And so each year during Vision Night, I pick out a particular section of the book to highlight, to help us on our journey in pursuit of vision here at Church on Purpose. And so tonight, as I mentioned, there are no note sheets to go along with tonight's lessons. But for any of the previous Bible study lessons that we have been through, you have the opportunity to access those by visiting notes.churchonpurpose.org. And then, of course, at live.churchonpurpose.org, you can find the entire archive of all of our previous Bible studies and sermons as well. And so you can visit there to recap after tonight. Now, of course, at the end of tonight's lesson, we will gather in our reflection groups to answer the two questions that you see on your screen. What stuck out to me the most from the lesson, and what am I going to do differently this week based on what I heard, so that we can be intentional about our takeaway. And we are going to actually gather in groups at the conclusion of tonight's lesson. Kind of gather in groups, but there'll be some activity on the end of tonight's lesson where we'll be working out some stuff together. So just be ready for that. All right. So as I mentioned, our book that we're going to focus on tonight is The Principles and Power of Vision by Dr. Myles Munroe. And this being Vision Night, tonight we are going to talk about provision for the vision. Provision for the vision. And it is really weird. I went back and I was looking at the content that we covered on Vision Night over the last 2 years. And what is really what's really crazy is to see how what we discuss on Vision Night ends up relating to where we are as a church. And so what we're going to talk about tonight is going to be a continuation in a very mild format of the message that was delivered for our anniversary service by my good friend Marvin. And it is going to kind of be the in-between that message from anniversary and our power module that we're going to jump into next month on stewardship. But this is going to look at provision and how it relates to the visions that God has placed in our hearts and who we decide we want to be, the kind of followers that we decide we want to be, the kind of believers that we decide we want to be, and the kind of examples that we decide for ourselves we want to be in pursuit of what the Lord has in front of us. And so as we go through tonight's lesson, we have 3 really simple objectives, and they are as follows: to clarify the difference between purpose, mission, and vision. And this is just a recap. This is a portion of the lesson that we do every year because it is important to understand the unique purpose of each of these in our lives. And then we're going to clarify the source of provision. And that might seem like something that we already know, but there's a difference between knowing something and living something that you know. And so tonight we're going to clarify the source of provision, and then we're going to conclude tonight by envisioning. And that's our collective activity that we're going to do to close out tonight. All right. So our recap, and just to be clear, and what I'll do, since I don't have note sheets for you guys tonight, I will make this the copy of this PowerPoint available to you. If you want the notes that are contained herein, but you don't want to handwrite everything that I'm about to say over these next 50 minutes, then I'll make the PowerPoint available to you so you can make your notes to fill in the gaps in between the stuff that you see on the screen. All right, so just to be clear, let's break down, of course, the difference between purpose, mission, vision, and we're going to include a 4th one in there called ministry. So the first one, purpose. Purpose is your why. Purpose is your unique contribution to the goal. Okay? So when we're constantly talking about purpose here at Church on Purpose, of course, the mission of Church on Purpose is to develop disciples of Jesus Christ who understand their faith and live it, understand their purpose and pursue it, and understand their vision and build it. Okay? And so the purpose, your purpose, is your why. It is your reason for being. It is why you exist. It is the very unique and singular contribution that you make to us being able to achieve the goal that God has established for us that nobody else can do like you. It is why you were created. It's why you were formed. in your mother's womb. It is why you were conceived in the mind of God before your parents ever got together. It is why your parents got together. It is why you were born. It is why you exist. It is why you still breathe, why you are still here, why you have not been taken out yet. It is why your life still has value and meaning. It is your purpose. This is your unique contribution to the goal. It is your role on the team. Okay? Now, we've been here for a while, and hopefully you know the answer to this question. What is my role on the team? Thank you. That was going to be real bad if nobody got that. So thank you, Cynthia, for listening to the whole question so that you could respond. And then thank you for responding correctly. I am a coach. I love coaching. That is my purpose. That is my reason for existing, is to help to develop other people and help them to maximize their potential, to develop, to identify challenges and develop strategic solutions to overcome those challenges, and then to empower people to work together and maximize their potential in overcoming that challenge. I am a coach. I love coaching. It is my purpose. It is my why. It is why I'm here. It is my unique contribution to the goal that we have established here at Church on Purpose of, again, developing disciples of Jesus Christ who understand their faith and live it, understand their purpose and pursue it, and understand their vision and build it. That is my unique contribution. Why are you here? That's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer that right now, but that's what we need to be thinking about. What is your unique role in helping us to achieve our goal? Once you understand your purpose, then you can clarify your mission. Your purpose is your why. Your mission is your what. It is the overall idea of what you want to accomplish. So my mission in life is to call both individuals and organizations back to a sense of purpose. I do that through living out my purpose as a coach. So I coach both individuals and organizations in understanding their purpose, in understanding the purpose and the things that they do and why they do them. Question is, once you understand your purpose, what is your mission? That lasagna got me. I'm telling you, yo, that's the best $5 lasagna I ever had. Gladys made that happen. I'm gonna stop talking about lasagna now. This is your mission. Your mission is your what? This is your responsibility on the team, okay? Your purpose is your role, but your mission is your responsibility. It is that thing that you are responsible for doing that's not anybody else's responsibility. Now, there might be shared responsibilities, but in association with your purpose and why you are here, what is it that you are doing here? Based on who you understand yourself to be and why you understand God made you, what then are you supposed to be doing here to, again, help us to reach our goal? Okay? Vision is the where. Vision is the capacity to see things as they can aligned or where they aren't connected, because as the Bible says, how can two walk together unless they agree? The reason they can't walk together is because at some point they're going to deviate. And so you have to understand your vision so that you understand what to connect yourself with, what is going to help propel you down the path of achieving the goal that the Lord has for you. That's why at Church on Purpose, people can't join the church until they attend what? A vision dinner. Why? Because they need to understand the vision of the church so that they can make the decision for themselves whether or not Church on Purpose runs in alignment with the vision that God has called for their lives. Because if it doesn't, then there's not going to be anything but confusion and contention and frustration. But if it does, then you can find that space where you fit and where you grow and where you learn and where you develop. Now, does that mean that we grow a little bit slower? Absolutely. But does that mean that the quality of growth at Church on Purpose is higher? Absolutely. The people that are here that have committed to this church have been committed to this church. I tell people all the time, and my friends look at me when I'm crazy, when I tell them that the number of people that we have on Sunday mornings is actually the same number of people that we have in Bible study on Wednesday nights. Because that is not ordinary by any sense in church. Usually, the 80-20 principle applies to your attendance on Sunday and your attendance on Wednesday. That's why a lot of large churches don't have Bible study in their sanctuary on Wednesday nights. Why they have it in the fellowship hall. Because they try to put the few little people in the sanctuary on Wednesday nights, the room would look super duper empty. So they have to go to another space, another smaller space, in order to host that, because they don't have the same level of engagement, because the same level of commitment isn't there. Why? Because individuals have not connected their personal vision to the corporate vision of the organization. Your personal vision, whatever God has placed within you in some way, shape, or form, is motivating you to want to become a disciple, a better disciple of Jesus Christ, so that you can understand your purpose and pursue it, and understand your vision and build it. And you know that integral to that, important, valuable to that, is your ability to be able to understand what the Lord is saying to you. And one of the ways that you're able to achieve that is by being in Bible study on a weekly basis. So I applaud each and every one of you for consistently being present. Vision is your where. It is where we are trying to get you to. It is the impact that you want to make in this community that is going to long outlive you. And it's the where, it's the destination that you are working so hard for. It is that thing in your heart that you want to accomplish before you leave this earth. It is seeing that thing that does not exist yet as if already here. This is going to be really annoying. I got to stop turning the other way. We'll see what happens. All right. Now, last is ministry. Your ministry is the how. So once you understand why you are, and you understand what you are doing, you understand where you're trying to go with all of this, the how, the way that you actually get there, is your ministry. Ministry is the action and activity directed by the mission that manifests the vision. It is your playbook. Your ministry is your playbook for life. It is the things that you do on a regular basis that is an outgrowth of who you are, that is directed by what you are trying to accomplish, and it is what produces the realization of the vision in your life. Continue working your ministry in alignment with your mission, and your purpose will be fulfilled as you fulfill your vision. Your purpose is your role, your mission, your responsibility, vision, your goal, and your ministry is your playbook. And all of this is related to, all of this begins with what you are able to see. You don't start the journey towards purpose and the journey towards the realization of vision in your life by looking around you. You have to be able to see beyond where you are right now in order to grab hold of the vision that God has for you. Miles Monroe says, sight is a function of the eyes. You see with your eyes, but vision is a function of the heart. The vision that God has placed within you is deeper than what you see with your eyes. That restaurant that you are going to run, you may not see it with your eyes yet, but you see it with your heart. The church that we will become one day, we may not see it with our eyes right now, but we see it in our hearts. The kind of family that we have, we may not see it with our eyes right now, but we see it with our hearts. The kind of adults that our children are going to be one day, we may not see it right now with our eyes, but we see it with our hearts. And in doing so, that vision becomes the goal that we then begin to work toward. Make sense? Any questions? Egg salad. What? You have a question for real? Y'all pray for that boy. So let's talk about employing the provision of vision. And we're going to move through these so that we can get to the end in our exercise for the night. But if you have some questions, then definitely don't hesitate to ask them. And we'll get there in a second. All right. So employing the provision of vision. First of all, it is important to understand. It is our job to understand, to believe, and write down our visions, while it is God's responsibility to accomplish them. In our lives, we are going to experience a lot of things in our faith journey, a lot of things that we feel the Lord calling us to do that we don't necessarily feel like we are able to do. Oftentimes, the Lord calls out of us who we don't know we are yet. He calls us to be that person that we don't know we are yet. He calls us to do things that we don't know that we can do yet. He calls us to stretch ourselves in ways that we didn't know that we could stretch. And it is our responsibility, it is our job to understand what he's calling us to do, to believe in what he's calling us to do, to write it down so that we can make sure we're clear about it, and that regardless of what happens in our lives, we can come back to the clarity of the vision that God has given us. And then it is his responsibility to help us accomplish it. That in and of itself should remove a lot of the weight that we feel for what we know the Lord is calling us to do. Some of us, we look at what the Lord is calling us to do, and our bank accounts don't necessarily match up with what we feel like the Lord is asking us to do. What is extremely encouraging is that your present income does not impact your kingdom outcome. Your present income does not impact your kingdom outcome. The Lord is not limited by working in your life. He is not limited in working in your life by the resources that you currently have within your possession. And that's why we can't stop dreaming, because we don't have enough today to make our dream a reality. The vision is beyond the present moment. And so our circumstances and situation in the present moment can never stop us from being able to continue pursuing the vision that God has placed in our hearts. So even as parents, we have to stop taking upon ourselves the responsibility of feeling like we have to finance our children's visions, and allow them the opportunity to dream freely and to chase the vision that the Lord has placed in their hearts. Because it is their job to understand what he's calling them to do, to believe what he's calling them to do, to write down what he's calling them to do, and then it is God's responsibility to accomplish it. Now, if we really believe that, we would move in our lives with a different level of obedience, with a different degree of boldness, with a much higher level of confidence. But that's why it says that it is not just our job to understand, but to believe. And understanding and believing are two totally different things. We can understand that God has a plan for us. We can even understand the plan that God has for us. But you still won't get anywhere if you don't believe what you understand. It is the same way that people can know the Bible forward and backward and still be off the chain. Because they may understand what the word says, but they don't believe it. Because belief leads to a change in actions, and I can tell what you believe by the way that you live your life. I can tell how deeply you believe in what God is calling you to do by what you do and by what you don't do. You may understand what God is calling you to do, but do you believe it? If you believe it, write it down. When you write it down and it becomes plain, then it becomes a guidepost for you along your journey. It becomes your plumb line that keeps you on track with where you're going. It becomes the destination that you are working toward that remains fixed and focuses your efforts along the way so that you can ultimately arrive at your destination. It's your job to understand and to believe and to write. It is his job to accomplish it. So whatever you're thinking about, whatever you are hearing God talk about in your heart, whatever you feel like the Lord is putting on you to do and to accomplish in this world, make sure that you understand what he's asking you to do. Then commit to believe in what he's asking you to do. Write it down, the things that he's asking you to do, and then have the expectation that it is God's responsibility to help you to accomplish it. God often gives us dreams that initially confound us because he wants to make sure we don't attempt to fulfill them apart from him. God can't tell you what he wants you to do until he can trust that when you do it, you're going to do it in accordance with his overall plan. That's why it is very rare that someone will understand their life purpose at the moment of conversion. That's why along this journey of faith and development, when we are saved, we begin to walk in our general purpose, that purpose that we all have, which is to fulfill the Great Commission that Jesus gave to all of his disciples. And then the more that you grow and the more that you mature in your faith and the more you understand God and you understand his kingdom and you understand how it works and you understand his will and you understand his desires and you learn how to put your desires on the back burner for his desires, then the Lord begins to reveal more and more of your specific purpose, your unique purpose to you, and clarify that vision for you, because the more you understand about him, the more he can trust you with what he's placed on the inside of you. That's why to operate a vehicle, you have to have a driver's license. Because before you are given control of something so powerful, you have to demonstrate an awareness and an understanding of the rules and the governing regulations for operating the vehicle in a safe manner that is going to lead to the benefit of your life and not the detriment of somebody else's. And if the Lord showed you and told you what he wanted you to do before you understood how he thinks and how what he's asking you to do fits in with his overall plan for your life and for the lives of others, if he gave it to you too early, then you would miss being able to maximize the work that he desires to do through your life to have the greatest impact in the world. And so oftentimes when he first gives it to us, when he first drops it on us, which is when we're not even thinking about it, it seems so big and so unrealistic that we're like, oh no, there's no way I can do that. It sounds like a really great idea, but there's no way I can become that. There's no way I can impact that many people. It's confusing that the Lord would be calling you to do something that seems like it is so far beyond you. But if the vision is simple enough that you can do it by yourself, it's not a God-given vision. Because anything that God is calling you to do is going to require partnership with God to achieve. So we have to trust God for provision each step of the way. Number 3, God will never give you a vision without the provision for it. So even though when he drops it on us, it seems so big, where we have to find confidence to be able to believe is in that if God has placed the vision in our hearts, if the vision is from God, then the Lord will provide for the vision that he has given you. Provision literally means before the vision. The prefix pro means beforehand or in advance of. And so provision is what God has made available for you to be able to achieve what he places in your heart before he even gives you the vision. See, what is crazy, and we'll get to this in a little bit, but we struggle with this scarcity mentality, and we don't realize that by the time we understand the vision that God has placed in our hearts, he has already miraculously and intricately woven the provision and everything that we're going to need to be able to do what he's calling us to do. He's already woven all of that into the plan that he has for our lives. And so as long as we follow his directions, as long as we are sensitive to his spirit, as long as we're going where he says go and doing the things that he says do and talking to the people that he says talk to, then we will find ourselves along that journey bumping into the provision that God has already made. And what would seem like happenstance and random chance now becomes very purposeful and intentional as we see God laying out the steps for us to be able to do what he called us to do. When we first moved out here, I had been working in Virginia, and Janae had been home with the kids. And so when we got out here and the focus was on beginning to prepare to plant the church, Janae volunteered to go back to work so that I could stay home and work on getting things together and organizing the church and doing what it was that God called us out here to do. And that was cool for like a year or two. And then it became abundantly clear that we could either continue to just get by. I mean, because we was like just getting by. I mean, like, just getting by. We could either keep on just getting by, or I could go back to work. And we would have the opportunity to be able to do a little bit better than just get by. And start putting ourselves in position to be able to do things and accomplish goals that we knew we had for one another. And what's really interesting about how the Lord works in my life is anytime I go job hunting, I never get a job. Never works. Never works. In my life, anytime I've gone job hunting, never got a job. All of the jobs that I've ended up working, I've gotten through relationship. And where I work now, at the Empowerment Network, I actually sat down and had a conversation about partnership with a different organization, and the conversation went on and on and on and on, and eventually they were like, "Hey, you sound like, somebody that would be really good for this organization." And as difficult as it was to go back to work and know that my children were going to have to go to daycare and I wasn't going to be home with them all day anymore and all of those things, not only did I already have a burden in my heart to return back to work before that, but then I had a conversation with a little lady by the name of Patricia Barron, and she told me to go to work there. And that's why I'm there. And ever since then, the Lord has used that opportunity to continue to open new doors and to continue to challenge me and to continue to develop me and prepare me for where the Lord is taking me. And that is because I followed the promptings of his spirit. I knew ultimately where I was trying to go. And so when he brought the opportunity to me, I saw how it fit with where he was taking me. And on your journey, it is important for us to understand that with your vision, the vision that God has given you, that he's placed in your heart, that he will never give you a vision that he has not already made provision for. So don't be surprised when things come your way and they are relating to what you ultimately want to do. If you are following the Lord and if you are responding in obedience to the guidance and direction of his spirit, then believe it as provision for the journey and take advantage. The ability and resources are available for what you were born to do, yet your provision is usually hidden until you act on your vision. It would be so easy if the Lord was like, hey, I want you to go start a football team. And you walked out your front door and it was helmets and shoulder pads and footballs and cleats and pants and jerseys and everything that you need to start the football team. It would be so easy if you just walked out your front door after the Lord said it and it was right there. It would be so easy. Guess what? That's not how it works. That's why you need faith for this journey. Because your provision oftentimes does not appear until after you have started moving in pursuit of your vision. Establish what you want to do and begin to do it, and then the need will be met. Tell y'all the story all the time when we talk about, the history of the church and how the day that we left Virginia, we got on the road and didn't have enough money for gas to get here. And I had to make the decision whether we were going to go or whether we was going to make some phone calls and try to get some money so that we could go. And I sat in the truck and I said to the Lord, I was like, Lord, I believe that you called us to do this. I believe you told us to go. And I believe that you are responsible for providing for the fulfillment of this vision. And so if this is what you're calling us to do, you're going to have to make a way somehow for us to be able to get from here to where you're telling us to go. Whether that is, sending the people that are going to put $5 and $10 in my hand while I'm panhandling outside the gas stations along the way. If that's the case, then that's what we're going to have to do. Then, but I'm believing you that you are going to provide for us in order to be able to get there. The provision didn't come while we were still sitting in the parking lot. The provision didn't come 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes down the road. It was 2 hours into the trip before the provision arrived. And a lot of times in our lives, we have to get out of park, put our dreams and our visions into drive, and get down the road a little ways before the provision arrives. Because the Lord has to know that he can trust you to continue pursuing what he placed in your heart, even when outward circumstances aren't comfortable, when they aren't necessarily aligning with your plans. And that's why sometimes when you first jump out to do what the Lord is calling you to do, oftentimes what will happen is you'll get some immediate detractors, people who are like, oh no, you crazy, you done lost your mind. But then there'll be a couple of people who are like, oh yeah, that's great. I always knew you had it in you. And then there comes this long period in the desert where you're struggling to try to make it. And you're trying to figure out if you're going to make it. And it becomes very tempting and very alluring to go back to what you just came out of. We see that with the children of Israel. When Moses delivers them from bondage in Egypt, when the Lord works through Moses to deliver them from bondage in Egypt, now they just saw the Lord work all of these miracles and moved in such a way that all of the riches that Pharaoh had, the children of Israel were able to walk out of Egypt with. These people that had been slaves for 400 years, they walk out of Egypt having plundered it as if they had just completed a war campaign, and they're walking through the desert. They get across the Red Sea. They're wandering, and things aren't happening as quickly as they thought they would happen. The vision isn't becoming a reality as quickly as they thought it should become a reality, and they start to moan and groan and long for the place that they came from. And where the rubber meets the road is when you get out of the place that you came from, but have not yet got to the place that you're going to. It's in the in-between time that it becomes easy and comfortable to go back to that stuff that you came out of. Some of y'all been in relationships like that, where the relationship was crazy, it wasn't great. There was a reason that you broke up, but in between breaking up from that relationship and finding a new relationship, you start getting those feelings and those desires to go back to the very thing that you couldn't wait to get out of. And on the journey to vision, there will come times where we have this in-between time, this lull while we are waiting on the Lord to provide for us, to be able to make the vision a reality. But you will never see provision for a vision that you will not pursue. What's up, Pooh? Maya's gone. Maya's gone. You will never see provision for a vision that you will not pursue. Provision does not arrive until after you make the step to pursue the vision. Now, understand that provision doesn't arrive for the vision until you make the step to pursue the vision, which means that there has to be a vision. So don't go jumping out there if you don't know what you're jumping into. Okay? Because provision is tied to the vision. Without the vision, you just pro, which is the first part of probably going to have a really hard time. All right? God has already blessed us with every spiritual blessing in heavenly places. Ephesians chapter 1, verse 3. Lets us know that the Lord has already, past tense, already blessed us with every spiritual blessing. That includes the provision for the vision that he's placed in our hearts. Prosperity does not mean that tomorrow's need is met today. It means that today's need is met today. It is God's desire, it is Jesus' desire that we prosper even as our souls prosper. That's what Scripture says. But we have a really skewed understanding of what prosperity means. And prosperity is directly tied to your ability to fulfill your vision. Prosperity, what prosperity is not, prosperity does not mean excess. And that's the way that we have come to believe it in America, is that if you are living a prosperous lifestyle, then then you're going to be featured on MTV Cribs or something like that. That you're going to have gold leaf on your ceiling, and you're going to have apple trees growing in your living room, and you're going to have a swimming pool full of champagne, and you're going to sleep on sheets made of dove hair. And yeah, I agree, Braden. Prosperity is not excess. Prosperity is not excess. Prosperity is not excess. What we have come to understand prosperity as in America is not biblical prosperity, but it is actually hoarding. It is materialistic gluttony. It is the accumulation of a bunch of stuff that we don't really need to be able to do the things that we need to do today. Because we believe that having more things is what we're supposed to have. This is the kind of culture that we have developed in America in our capitalistic society, where nothing is ever enough. Which is why you have people that have tens of billions of dollars that even if they spend $100 a day for the rest of their life, they couldn't spend it all. And what are they doing with it? While they're holding it, other people are in severe and extreme poverty. We have a hoarding mentality, and we have misunderstood, especially in church, what real prosperity is. Prosperity does not mean excess. Prosperity is not hoarding. It is not this idea of holding on to and having more than what we need. If you feel like you never have enough to satisfy you, that is not living a prosperous life. That is living a gluttonous life. And that is not the kind of lifestyle that the Lord dreams for us. When he talks about living a prosperous life, prosperity is peace. The word prosperity literally means peace, tranquil. So when we live a prosperous life, we are able to live a life of peace. That means that we're able to lay down and go to sleep at night, not worried about what happens to our stuff. That means we're able to walk down the street and not have to worry about clutching our purse when someone walks by because we're living at peace. That means we don't worry about all the stuff that we don't have because we know that the way that the Lord provides, He makes sure that we have everything that we need for today. That means that we're not always looking at what everybody else has and wanting what they have while we ignore what we have. Prosperity is literally being able to get to the point in our lives where we are free of worry and fear. True prosperity means to be free of worry and fear. It reflects a state of contentedness that everything necessary is being taken care of. If you want to know what prosperity looks like, look at your children. Look at your grandchildren. They live their lives without worry and fear. They live in a state of contentedness because they know that everything necessary is taken care of. How do we know? Because when it's dinner time, they come sit at the dinner table. They ain't thought nothing about groceries. They ain't thought nothing about meal planning. They ain't thought about nothing but showing up, sitting down, and eating what they know is going to be prepared. Look at other people's kids. Or think about when you were a kid. You didn't think about all those things. You went to school and you did your homework and you went outside and played and you came in when it was time to eat. You came home because you knew you had a home to come to and you ain't never think about paying no bills. You walked around the house and turned on light switches and oftentimes didn't turn them off. You won't think about paying no light bills. Got in the shower and knew it was going to be hot water. Think about real little kids. When they stand on the edge of stuff, and even when you're too far away, they jump. Why? Because they're not worried about you not catching them. Because they live a prosperous life, a peaceful life, a life that is free of worry and fear because they are content with the knowledge that everything necessary in their lives is going to be taken care of. Do you want to see the epitome of prosperity? Just look at Maya. She ain't got to worry about nothing. She don't have to think about getting up and going to the restroom. She just go wherever she is, whenever it is, and she just know that another diaper is on its way. Now, I hope y'all don't get that prosperous. That is not my wish for you. But think about the level of trust and the level of dependence that requires. And what's crazy about it is that it is natural within us. It is natural for us to live that way. What is unnatural for us is to live the way that we end up growing to live because the world is tough and the world beats us up and the world makes us callous and the world makes it difficult for us to believe that the Lord will provide everything that we need because every now and then we become a little bit disobedient. Because we're disobedient, then we're out of place and then we miss the provision that God made and then we get behind and then we can't get ahead. And so it becomes difficult for us to find this place of peace and tranquility in our lives to really be able to live a prosperous life because it becomes difficult for us to be content with what we have. Prosperity is peace. Beloved, it is my desire that above all, you prosper, even as your soul prospers. May your life be a demonstration of the peace that your soul finds in Jesus. And we have that peace because we know the one who is providing for us and taking care of us. Somebody real quick turn to Matthew chapter 6, verses 26 and 27. Matthew chapter 6, verses 26 and 27. Matthew chapter 6, verses 26 and 27. And read that nice and loud. 26 and 27. Thank you, Ashley. Y'all give it up for Ashley using her outdoor voice, using her outside voice, projecting from the diaphragm. Go back to verse 26 for me, Jarrell. Over there pushing buttons. So verse 26 says, look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? Now, this is not saying that the birds don't do anything and they sit around on their butts all day and the Lord just comes around and drops food in their mouths and builds their homes for them. No, this is talking about provision the same way that the Lord provides for us. What the Lord does is he makes available everything that we need to do what he's calling us to do. He makes it available to us, but we still have to work. The bird wakes up in the morning, and even though the vision for the day is to build a nest, the bird still has to go and get the sticks that the Lord provides for the nest. He still has to go get the grass and the straw that the Lord provides for the nest. He still has to go get the mud that the Lord provides for the nest. The bird gets up in the morning and isn't concerned about eating, but has to eat and goes out and still has to leave the nest to go out and find the worms that the Lord has made available. And it's not like the bird gets up in the morning and all these worms just laid out on the ground, nice and easy. But the bird has to go and dig to find the worms. Got to do the work to acquire the provision. And if we think that for one moment that we can sit around and do nothing and the Lord will magically provide everything that we need, that's not how all of this works. The way that the Lord provides for us is by making available everything that we need, but the way that we have to access it is by putting forth some effort into it. Does that make sense? Go ahead and switch back to the presentation, please. Thank you. Prosperity doesn't mean that tomorrow's need is met today. It means that today's need is met today. You can be at peace when you realize that the Lord provides everything for today that you need to accomplish what you need to accomplish today. It won't always and oftentimes doesn't feel like enough to do what we need to do tomorrow, but we always have enough for today. And we can find peace when we can become grateful and acknowledge the fact that every day the Lord has provided everything that we need. Now, if we end the day without having what we need, then more than likely there is some digging that we could have done to find some more worms. Or there's some more flying that we could have done to find some more sticks. But everything that we needed for the day was provided for us. True prosperity means to be free of worry and fear. That's old. We talked about that. So God has designed every purpose with its own prosperity. Whatever God has called you for, he provides for. And that provision is unique to what the Lord is calling you to do, which is why we cannot get frustrated by comparing ourselves with other people and trying to compete with other people, because the provision that God makes for us is in accordance with and in alignment with what he is calling us to do. Don't get mad because Janae drives a minivan. Janae drives a minivan because Janae needs a minivan. So if you got a little two-seater, don't covet the minivan, because the minivan is provided because of what the Lord has called her to do. And if the Lord ain't called you to do that yet, then enjoy what you got while you got it. because she ain't always had a minivan. And you might not always be driving the two-seater that you got. But the Lord is going to provide for you based on what you need according to what he has called you to do. We learn when we talk about the gifts in the body that some people have multiple gifts. Some people may only have one or two gifts. But whatever is given to you for what the Lord is calling you to do. So you can't get stuck looking at what other people have, because the Lord has given to them what they have to do what the Lord has called them to do. Focus on what you have and make sure you are managing properly what the Lord has entrusted to your care to do what he called you to do. The world would be a better place if we were all clearer about our vision and our purpose. Because then we would focus more on our work and our business and stop minding other people's business. We would be so engrossed and so focused on what the Lord is doing in us that we wouldn't have time to compare ourselves with what the Lord has for other people. And even if we did see what the Lord had for other people, we would be focused on why the Lord has given us what he has given us, and not worried about why the Lord gave them what he gave them, because that's for them to worry about. That's for them to steward. That's for them to manage. For us, our responsibility is to properly manage whatever the Lord has entrusted to our care, because what he gives us is according to our purpose. Miles Monroe talks about how in his house he had a large dining room and a large dining room table that could seat a whole lot of people. And some people would walk in there and look at it and think that it was rather grandiose and too much and extra, and that it was unnecessary. But what they didn't understand is that he had that table because he would host a lot of people for dinners and events and things like that at his house. And so he needed a large table to be able to accommodate the people that he would be hosting at his home. Now, if you're not hosting anything, then you don't need a table with 15 seats. But if that's something that you are doing that is in alignment with what the Lord has called you to do, then get your 15-seat table. The problem is we see the table and not the purpose in the table, and we want the table without understanding the purpose. But when we can get to the point to where we begin to consider what the Lord has given us, why the Lord has given us, and how it relates to what he has called us to do, then we can finally begin to be comfortable with what we have. And not be so worried about and overly concerned about what other people have. Because when you know what you're supposed to be doing, you can focus on the things that only you can do. Sometimes God doesn't give us all the resources we need to fulfill our visions because he has called other people to provide them for us. Now here's the caveat to that, and here is part of the reason why we're going to be walking through the stewardship module. This only works in a culture of obedience. What I mean by that is you have to be obedient to the Lord in fulfilling your vision to be positioned to receive the provision, but then also the other people have to be obedient to the Lord with how they steward the provision that they have been entrusted with. You can be obedient and be in position to receive the provision, but what happens if the person that has what you need decides to be disobedient and hold on to it? This is part of the reason why on an annual basis we celebrate Kingdom Commonwealth Day. Because for us, it creates a culture where we understand that the Lord provides all of our needs, that we do have a tendency and a habit to garner excess and hold on to more stuff than what we need, but that we can release the excess in our lives and get it to the right people in accordance with how the Lord guides us. So Kingdom Commonwealth Day is our opportunity to assess our lives, identify the excess, and bring it together so that the people that need it can get the provision that the Lord has made available through us. And the question is, what are you holding on to that is supposed to be the provision for the fulfillment of somebody else's vision? What do you refuse to let go of that the Lord has been calling you to let go of so that someone else's vision can be provided for? Number 10, your obedience to your vision affects not only your life, but the lives of those who will work with you. So we're all on this journey called Church on Purpose. And we are trying to create a community. We're trying to become a church that develops disciples of Jesus Christ who understand their faith and live it, understand their purpose and pursue it, and understand their vision and build it. But what happens to your ability to do that if I decide to be super ratchet, off the chain, and disobedient? Now the question is, with the vision that you are building and with the people that you partner with and the people that are working with you to help you get to where you ultimately want to be, what happens to them if you decide to be super ratchet, off the chain, and disobedient? What happens to your family on its way to becoming the family that you envision if you decide to be super ratchet, off the chain, and disobedient? What happens to the children that you serve if you decide to be super ratchet, off the chain, and disobedient? What happens to the women if all of our presenters for the women's conference decide to be super ratchet, off the chain, and disobedient? WWT becomes the SOD conference. The super ratchet, off the chain, and disobedient. Your obedience to the vision, y'all, affects not only your life, but also the lives that will work with you. Think about, at the beginning of this year, we were preaching through Nehemiah, and the Lord laid it on Nehemiah's heart to go back and to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. But what happens to the people, all of the people that would partner with Nehemiah in that effort, and the people that were living in the city that weren't able to live in prosperity and weren't able to have peace because the walls were broken down and people were able to come in and pillage and steal and rob? What happens to all of those people's lives if Nehemiah is disobedient and never goes back to champion the cause of rebuilding the wall? The people are left unprotected. And when we are disobedient to the vision that the Lord has placed in our hearts, we leave people unprotected. That the Lord is calling us to serve and calling us to stand up for. That's why your vision matters, because it's not just about you. But it is about everybody that is tied to and connected to the work that the Lord is going to do through you. There are only 3 people in this room. 2 of them in the room right now, one of them's not. But there are only 3 people in this room that we knew before coming here to start Church on Purpose. The rest of y'all, we didn't even know you existed. And now we've become family. But what happens to our lives if we have been disobedient to the vision? What happens to other people's lives that you don't even know exist if you don't fulfill the vision that the Lord has placed in your heart? If you don't do what the Lord is calling you to do, what happens to those people? When we go to heaven, most of us are going to be shocked at what was ours for use on earth that we never asked for. Everything that you need to do what the Lord is calling you to do, the Lord has made provision for. If you haven't found it yet, Jesus says, ask and you will receive. Unfortunately, a lot of us struggle to find the faith to even ask. And because of that, the Lord has buckets and buckets of blessings in heaven waiting to release to us that because we haven't asked for, He can't give to us. Because we haven't sought the divine intervention of the kingdom, then the kingdom cannot divinely intervene. And that's why at Church on Purpose, when we talk about giving, we talk about doing so cheerfully. We talk about doing so in response to the guidance and the direction of the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit will always guide you into exactly what to do. But how do you get to the point to where you understand what to do? You have to ask. Lord, what is it that you want me to give? Because guess what? If He's asking you to give more than what you think you have, what does that mean? He has more for you. See, and at this particular point, I'm not even talking about money, but I'm talking about just who you are as a person. A lot of times you will get to that point where the Lord is calling on you to do something and you like, Lord, I just don't have the energy to do it. Lord, I just don't have the capacity to do it. I'm not educated enough to do it. I'm not smart enough to do it. I'm not able to do it. I'm not experienced enough to do it. But if the Lord is asking you to do it, then what you need to do it, He will provide as long as you ask. You ever been to somebody's house after Christmas and walked in and there was still presents under the tree? Any of those presents ever been for you? They were usually presents for people that hadn't come by the house yet. And sometimes the people never came. Janae and I right now at our house have 4 Christmas presents in our basement that have been wrapped for the last 3 years. Because the people that the gifts were for never came by the house and have not been by the house in the last 3 years. And so where are their presents? Still in the same place, wrapped and waiting. And the question is, how many presents are going to be wrapped and waiting for you when you meet Jesus? And you see these things. Now, these were presents for kids. So mind you, they're 3 years older now than they were when the presents were gotten. And so the gifts really don't apply to the human beings that they are now because they were for their 3-year younger selves. So they can't even use the gifts anymore because the time for the gift to be used has passed. And I hope that all of us become so dependent on the Lord to provide for us that we don't miss a single gift, a single blessing, a single provision that He has for us, that we don't leave it underneath the tree and then come back and try to get it later because the time will have passed and we won't be able to use it anymore. Lastly, there are 5 specific ways that God provides the resources to fulfill our visions. And we're going to dig more into this when we come into our power module. We will revisit this. Number 1 is land and its inherent wealth. When the Lord created the earth, He placed within the ground the resources that we need to accomplish everything that we need to accomplish on earth. There is nothing that we have, nothing that has been made by man that was not made from the resources that were available in the earth. 2, the ability to work. Your job is a source of provision for your life. It is one of the channels and one of the avenues through which the Lord is able to provide for you in your pursuit of the vision that he has given you. The ability to cultivate. Cultivating is taking something and making it better. Improving it, growing it, grooming it, developing it, improving it so that it can produce even more. And the Lord has instilled that trait and that ability within us that we share with him. And in being able to cultivate, we are able to reflect his nature. The ability to preserve and reserve for the future. The fact that we can think long term positions us and helps us to understand how to manage what we have today so that we will have what we need tomorrow. When you buy groceries, you don't eat all your groceries the day that you buy them. But you preserve them, you put them in the refrigerator, you reserve them, you put the others in the cabinet for the future because you know that you're going to need them down the road. When the Lord helps us to understand our vision, we develop long-term thinking and we're able to understand how to take what we have today and set aside what we need for tomorrow. And fifth and finally, the ability to pass along wealth. Parenthetically, generational wealth. I hope that at Church on Purpose, we will be the last generation in our families that had to start from scratch. The Lord gives us the opportunity through our lives to be able to set up the next generation with a head start. And we got to be faithful and diligent over that to make sure that our children learn the lessons they need to learn from us, not from going through the same stuff that we had to go through. Forget pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. Our kids get a head start. They're not going to have straps on their boots. They're going to have laces on their shoes. And we're going to give them head starts at being able to fulfill the vision that the Lord has placed in their hearts. And so what we're going to do now is everybody needs something to write on and something to write with. And we're going to dream together real quick. Knowing that we can dream big, that we have permission, let me explicitly say this so that you understand this and so you don't get it twisted. At Church on Purpose, you have permission to dream big. Okay? And so let's dream together. So this is what we're going to do. Matter of fact, we're going to go ahead and end the stream. So those of you that joined us online tonight, good night. God bless you. Thank you for joining us. Live each day on purpose. All right. So what we're going to do is on your sheet, as we come to the conclusion of today's lesson, our hope is that it's been both informative and impactful for you. In addition to coming back and viewing this recording again to increase retention, we also want to encourage you to take an opportunity to reflect.
That's right. Here at Church on Purpose, it's part of our mission to help people understand their faith and live it. And one of the ways we do that is by taking time to reflect after each lesson. You can join us now in a period of reflection by simply clicking on the reflection button below your viewer, where it'll take you to a place where you can fill out some information and answer the same questions that we're going to be answering here in the room. Number one, what stuck out to you most from today's lesson? And number two, what do you plan to do differently this week based on what you heard?
Now, if you're watching from somewhere outside of the Omaha metro area, you can stay connected to everything that's happening in Church on Purpose by liking us on Facebook at facebook.com/Church on Purpose, or by visiting our website, www.churchonpurpose.org, where you'll find additional information about the ministry, an archive of past sermons and Bible studies, as well as opportunities to contribute and connect.
If you are in the Omaha metro area, we'd like to extend a personal invitation for you to come and join us on location for either our Sunday Worship and Word at 9:25 a.m. or midweek Worship and Word on Wednesday nights at 6:25 p.m.
We look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, live each day on purpose. Where do you expect Church on Purpose to go? What are your expectations for your church?